At 36,000 feet in the air, suddenly, silence. The autopilot fails. No warning, no time. 200 lives hanging in the balance, and one pilot must take full control. What happened next shocked the aviation world. This isn't a simulation, it's real. And it's a story of raw instinct, impossible odds, and a decision that saved every soul on board. The first sign of trouble was almost invisible. A flicker of caution messages on the pilot's screens. It was the kind of anomaly that could easily be dismissed as a momentary glitch, but in aviation, even the smallest warning can signal something far more sinister lurking beneath the surface. Contradictory stall and overspeed warnings appeared, even as the plane flew straight and level. The instruments seemed to be arguing with each other, creating a confusing and surreal situation for the crew. Captain Sullivan recognized a computer glitch, but the autopilot stayed engaged. The aircraft's systems designed to protect were now sowing doubt and uncertainty. The pilots cross-checked instruments, the warnings were digital ghosts. They searched for a pattern, hoping to find logic in the chaos, but the data made no sense. Suddenly the aircraft's nose pitched down violently, no human input. The plane seemed to have a mind of its own, reacting to phantom threats. The autopilot disconnected, but the plane's automated systems, fed faulty data from a critical sensor, took over. The pilots were no longer in command, the machine was. The A330 plunged into a steep dive, convinced by its own computers that it was stalling. The logic that once kept the plane safe now threatened everyone on board. Negative G-forces slammed unbelted passengers and crew into the ceiling. Chaos erupted in the cabin. In an instant, the calm of flight was shattered by terror and confusion. Objects became projectiles, screams filled the air. The sudden loss of control turned the cabin into a scene of panic and fear. In the cockpit, Sullivan and Lipset fought to regain control, battling the plane's own systems. Every second counted as they struggled against the relentless force of automation gone awry. The master alarm blared, adding to the confusion. Warning lights and sirens overwhelmed the senses, making it nearly impossible to focus. In seconds, the aircraft dropped 650 feet before Sullivan could pull out of the dive. The margin for error was razor thin, and the outcome hung in the balance. He fought the side stick, wrestling against the plane's automated commands. It was man versus machine, a desperate struggle for survival. The machine had turned on its masters. The very technology meant to safeguard lives had become the greatest threat. As Sullivan leveled the wings, a fragile calm returned, but the threat remained. The crew knew the danger was not over. The system could fail again at any moment. The faulty computer was still active, ready to strike again. Its errors lingered, a silent menace in the background. The pilots realized this was no ordinary malfunction. It was a fundamental betrayal by the technology meant to keep them safe. Trust in the system had been shattered. The cabin was shaken, injuries mounting, and the crew braced for what might come next. Every soul on board was at the mercy of a system they could no longer trust. The ghost in the machine was far from exorcised. Its presence lingered, a chilling reminder that technology, for all its promise, can sometimes become our greatest adversary. With the plane momentarily stable, a tense calm settled over the cockpit. The crew knew this was only a brief window to act. Captain Sullivan made a critical choice. He would take full manual control, flying the jet by hand. The autopilot was out. The flight control system was degraded, with many protections lost. The aircraft was now relying on the pilot's direct input, with little help from its advanced computers. At 37,000 feet, flying a heavy jet by hand is rare and demanding. Most pilots never experience it outside of simulators. Sullivan's naval training kicked in, steady hands, absolute focus. Years of experience prepared him for this moment, but the crisis wasn't over. The threat of another malfunction loomed over every second. 2 minutes later, the faulty system struck again. Another violent nose-down dive, even more sudden than before. The cabin erupted in chaos. Injuries increased. Passengers and crew were thrown about as the jet plunged. Sullivan and Lipset worked seamlessly, Sullivan flying, Lipset handling checklists and communications, both relying on teamwork and trust. The second dive was steeper, dropping another 400 feet in seconds. The margin for error was shrinking. Sullivan fought the controls, battling the plane's automated brain, determined to keep everyone safe. The emergency checklist didn't cover this. They relied on raw skill and instinct, improvising as they went. The pilots were now true stick-and-rudder aviators, making constant adjustments to keep the jet stable, every movement critical. Relief after the second dive was brief. The threat still lurked, and the crew knew another attack could come at any moment. They were thousands of miles from safety, with a rogue system waiting to attack again. The vast ocean below offered no comfort. Every second demanded vigilance and skill. The fate of everyone on board depended on the crew's unwavering focus and courage. With manual control tenuous, First Officer Lipset declared an emergency. Pan. He informed air traffic control of their flight control failures, rapid descents, and injuries. They requested diversion to Learmonth, a remote airfield in Western Australia. Controllers cleared airspace, relayed weather and runway info, and mobilized emergency services. Lipset filtered critical data supporting Sullivan and managing chaos. The calm voices on the radio became a lifeline. As the situation worsened, the call was upgraded to Mayday. The cabin crew, many injured, administered first aid and comforted passengers. Communication between cockpit, cabin, and ground kept everyone focused on survival. The goal was clear: get the aircraft down safely no matter what. The flight to Learmonth was the longest hour of their lives. Sullivan flew by hand, unable to trust any automation, not even the auto thrust. Every adjustment of power, speed, and altitude was manual, demanding total focus. Lipset called out speeds and checklists, their teamwork flawless under pressure. As they descended, Sullivan prepared for a visual landing. No guarantees the instruments would work. He judged the approach by eye, battling gusty winds and the fear of another malfunction. The weight of 315 lives rested on his skill. The wheels touched down at Learmonth. A perfect manual landing. Relief swept the cabin. Applause broke out. Against all odds, they were safe. The crew's fundamental flying skills had triumphed over catastrophic technology failure. They had faced the ghost in the machine, and won. The safe landing of Qantas 72 was no accident. It was the result of relentless training. Pilots like Sullivan spend countless hours in simulators preparing for the day automation fails. The investigation revealed a single faulty sensor had tricked the plane's computers into repeated dives. Only the pilot's training and manual flying skills saved the day. The incident shocked the industry, highlighting the need for hands-on proficiency in an age of automation. Airlines and regulators renewed focus on manual flying skills and unusual attitude recovery. Airbus updated software to prevent similar failures. Qantas 72 became a global case study, a reminder that human skill is the ultimate safety net. Aviation's future is rapidly evolving, with AI poised to become a digital co-pilot. AI could detect anomalies, cross-check data, and even isolate faulty systems before disaster strikes. The goal isn't to replace pilots but to augment them, reducing workload and enhancing safety. Next-generation simulators will train pilots to work with AI, learning when to trust and when to override. But trust and control remain central. The human must always have the final say. The challenge is building a seamless partnership between human and machine. Technology should serve the pilot, not the other way around. The future is about smarter tools, not pilotless planes. The lesson of Qantas 72 is clear. Technology can fail in ways no one expects. In those moments, survival depends on human skill, judgment, and adaptability. Captain Sullivan's actions, diagnosing chaos, fighting for control, landing perfectly, can't be replicated by machines. The human element is the ultimate safety system, able to improvise when checklists and computers fall short. Manual flying skills are not relics. They're the bedrock of airmanship. The challenge is to balance new technology with timeless skills. The human in the loop is aviation's greatest strength. Qantas 72 is proof. When all else fails, it's the pilot who saves the day. Every flight is a promise. Safe passage from one place to another. On October 7, 2008, that promise was tested as technology failed and the aircraft turned hostile. But the human crew kept their promise. Captain Sullivan, First Officer Lipset, and the crew saved 315 lives through skill and determination. The investigation praised their management of a complex crisis. Their story is one of heroism, instinct, and the irreplaceable value of a well-trained pilot. Qantas 72's legacy is a safer industry and a reminder of the sacred trust we place in pilots. When we board a plane, we trust the human element above all. The story of Qantas 72 is a story of faith rewarded, a promise made and a promise kept. 37,000 feet above the Indian Ocean, humanity triumphed over machine.